Ghosts and ghouls, demons and aliens, monsters and worse. Only here on Ghost or What, the best channel for original scary stories. Our next story is Horrors from Outer Space to Earth. Our world isn't a safe place. These lands are plagued by horror stories of all kinds. There are people experiencing unimaginable horrors in the most inconspicuous places, like a bus stop, or being taken by surprise and attacked when they believe they are completely safe and alone at home. But what if there's more than that? If these terrible things happen on our old and familiar planet, what kind of nightmares are waiting for humanity beyond the Earth's atmosphere? This is the story of Nick, who, despite having a beloved group of friends he would be seeing soon, he made the choice of going by himself on an adventure. He would be visiting a place that none of his friends appreciated as much as he did, the observatory. None of his closest friends understood Nick's passion for outer space, staring through a telescope into infinite darkness and getting lost among the stars. That didn't mean he was completely alone. When he arrived at the observatory, he was welcomed by very friendly guides and a group of tourists, a small family also interested in the marvels of the universe. There was nothing, absolutely nothing, to suggest that their lives were in danger, that Nick's world could be about to be thrown violently upside down. There was only a little rustle of leaves, just the small suggestion that something or someone was walking around the corner of the building when they were walking through the front doors. The visit through the observatory started really well, with just one quite unsettling thing. At first, Nick thought it was just his mind. He was excited to be there, but nervous about being on his own, and hesitant about trusting this group of strangers. So, when he noticed an awful smell, he tried to ignore it. But soon enough, it was too bad not to say anything. "Does anyone else smell that?" he wondered, and the tourists all agreed. It was like sulfur, or maybe something rotten, but it chased them everywhere they went. The guides waved it off as maybe a small mountain animal had crawled through the ventilation system, gotten lost, and died right there and then. They'd try to clean it up soon. That was considerably disturbing, but not only it wasn't the full truth, it was about to get much, much worse. As they continued walking, Nick noticed something strange. Not too long after they entered a new room, the windows would get foggy very quickly, as if there was a violent change in the temperature or atmosphere that none of them could notice. Nick tried to take a look outside, and he saw that it was growing late. The tour had started around sunset, and the night was almost pitch black, so that they could enjoy the view much more. But it was also a problem, because the dark was honestly terrifying. They were on an isolated road up the mountains, and there was nothing but shadows waiting outside for them. Would it be worse if there was something more than darkness out there? Nick wondered. He shivered at the thought, and then stepped back from the fully foggy window. They finally got to the big telescope, where each person would get a turn at looking into the gorgeous sight of the night sky. But everything got very weird very fast. The first woman took her turn behind the telescope. "Oh, it's beautiful. I can see Mars," the woman swooned. But she was quickly disregarded by everyone else, especially the guides, who knew that the red planet wasn't visibly right there. However, the woman was followed by her young daughter, and the little girl insisted, "I can see Mars. I can see it." The guides continued to shake their head and laugh, belittling the confused woman's opinions. But Nick was starting to grow suspicious. The woman's husband wasn't amused by the guides laughing at his family. He stepped up to the telescope with his head held high and his shoulders tense. That's when everything started to change. The man tried to disguise his gasp of surprise, but it was useless. Nick had noticed. He could see this strong and confident man lose every ounce of his strength the longer he looked through the telescope. He started to visibly shake, and even from a few steps away, Nick could hear him breathing heavily. What could possibly scare that man so much? The man stepped away from the telescope and said through gritted teeth, "Let's go, we're leaving." He grabbed his wife and daughter and walked away from the observatory without looking back. They ignored the guide's pleas, but the man did look back once to meet Nick's worried eyes. It was a kind offer to take him away with them, but Nick was rooted to his spot beside the telescope. He couldn't miss his chance. He had waited too long. Then, the family was gone, and Nick was alone, surrounded by that disgustingly sour smell, the smiling guides, the foggy windows, and the ominous telescope. Nick stepped up to the telescope with trembling legs. He leaned closer, holding his breath, and at first, he didn't see anything wrong. There was that overwhelming darkness, the lovely stars, the gorgeous moon, and then he looked to the left. Nick jumped back and screamed. He fell down to the floor, shaking. Everything made sense now. He could picture it clearly. The woman must have seen a small red dot in the distance. The girl saw it much bigger and brighter. Could it be a meteor about to destroy the Earth? No, because the man saw something so terrifying that it broke his soul in half. And now Nick had stared directly at it. It was a face. Red, shiny, horrifying, and close enough that Nick felt as if it had crawled through the telescope and slithered through his eyes down to his brain. The terror was paralyzing, but it was about to get much worse. The lights suddenly turned off, and as terrible as the complete darkness would have been, Nick realized there was something glowing inside that room with him. It was the faces of the guides. They were perfectly red, angry, round, with craters in them and black holes for eyes, and smiling wickedly at him. Nick screamed again. He stumbled backward. He wanted to run, but he was too scared to turn his back on those creatures. Finally, he reached the hallway, and all the lights were on in the rest of the observatory. He could start running away. Was it all a nightmare? Had he finally lost his mind? Or could it be true that something horrifying had fallen from space? Something horrible had come directly from the darkest and cruelest corners of the galaxy and come to haunt his favorite place on Earth. Nick started running, but he was plagued by a different fear. What was he going to find outside in the darkness of the night? Was he going to be safe? Was he going to get a chance to see his friends again and tell them this story? He couldn't imagine anything worse than this fate, but some of his friends might disagree, because they were seeing firsthand the worst that this planet could offer. Did you think that was the end? The terror never ends. Subscribe to our channel to hear more horror stories, only on Ghost or What.